Okay, hi, this is Hichert speaking. I'm sitting here with my colleague. You can't hear it? Hi? Hello? I can hear you. You can? Okay, yeah. Okay, fine, then I start. But my colleague says he cannot hear me because he is also in the session. He cannot. So the rest of the people can hear me, so I go on. Okay. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing, he says, so yes, we hear you. Well, maybe it's only here. We have
problem. No, we have the same problem.
I hear nothing. Hi? I
can confirm that I can hear you in the audience, yes.
You can, okay.
Yes.
But the attendees cannot, because Jürgen is in the session, he cannot hear anything.
Ich höre in der Session on Group Talk.
They hear I think they hear the wrong channel. Well, should I go on?
Yes, you can continue.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Because Jürgen hears what we are saying and not what the audience hears. Okay. Should I go on? Okay. Okay. Well, continue, okay. That's me. I'm sitting here in the office in Düsseldorf, Germany, and my colleague is Jürgen Feist. He's sitting right next to me. The two of us prepared this presentation. And as you said, the subject is visualization standards, and I'd like to give you a 45-minute overview of what we have been doing the last years. We have a association. We founded an association with more than 200 members already, and I give you a little overview of what we're doing. We talk about, let's say, things like dashboards and presentations and reports, things like what you see here on the screen, and we feel their standardization would help to improve this quite a bit. It's web GUIs, it is also PowerPoint presentations such as this one, and I'd like to come back to this one because this is a typical PowerPoint presentation. We have a little demon up here because it is very difficult to understand this because the message of what has to be said is missing. And so I'd like to start with this concept which we call success, and the IBCS standards are based on the 7 success rules, and this is the structure of this presentation. I start with the first and most important thing, that's a message. We have to say something. We know what the questions are and we give answers, and this is one of the major problems dashboards have because they are very often merely statistics and they're not reporting anything, and this is the message part. And then we have Unify, which means we have a semantic layer of communication that everything has a meaning. We're not using colors for the fun of it, we're using colors for meaning and so forth. This is Unify. Then we have Condense, which means things are getting easier to understand if we condense it. The ink, let's say, ratio is a ratio that's Edward Tufte has used many years ago. If you put more on a page, it is easier to understand. And then we have another issue that's important for us. It's scaling. It's to use the proper way of really scaling these charts we're looking at. And express means we have the proper way of using the proper table, the proper chart, using whatever is necessary to convey the message. And then simplify, also a subject that Edward Tufte and Stephen Hugh have touched many years ago. So the simpler this material is, the easier it is to understand. And then the last one is the structure issue. Of course, it's not only visualizing things, it should be structured properly as it's a proper storyline. And I would like to start with the first issue, that's say, and just show you a typical Excel chart which has no message. It's very difficult to understand because there is no message, and of course we have to change some little things like using the proper scale. You see the axis is truncated here. This is necessary, of course. A column chart is not information we really need, and total is not necessary because there's no difference between sales Germany and sales Germany total is the same thing. We take away, of course, the y-axis because it's much better to have the information and the labels inside. And then we start with this and have it in a typical IBCS standard column chart. And then we need, for the correct message, we need a title first. It's, of course, the company, the division, it's sales or cost or whatever. We need the business measure, and it says 2007, 2014. This is the title. We have a title for every chart and every table, and then we need a message, and it says from 2012 to 2014 our compound annual growth rate is 8%, and this message always has to be visualized. And it helps quite a bit if trend arrows and difference markers are used to highlight the message. Okay, this is one, and now it fulfills. It's very simple, very small, a very small start, but it fulfills the message part. And I use the same chart again and add the plan. You see, that's adding the plan for 2015 and using a different message. We plan to grow by 6%, and of course, again, this has to be highlighted. It's a plus of 6% compared to the actual year. And then I would say, oh, this is clear. I understand what I want to say, and this is another example of using the same chart. Or I could say, well, if I adjust the inflation effects and the currency effects, like inflation here and currency there, then this will be the worst year since 2007, and everyone understands it because it underlines the message that we have a problem. It is decreasing over the years. Or we take the same, again, it's a proper chart, or we take the same basic chart and add not only sales, but the profit, the Ibit here, and it's very easy to say that we will decrease by another 8 million if we go on like this. And this is the type of charts that really have a meaning, and this is what we mean by message. Support the message, convey a message. And the other one that belongs to what we call the conceptual rules is the last S in success. It's called structure. We have to organize to structure it properly. And again, here I'd like to explain what we mean by structure. This is a little example here. You see this fruit stand, and when you look into the first, this Golden Delicious box, then you see it is not uniform because there are apples and pears and bananas in there. This is the first requirement, is the structures have to be uniform, the uniform elements. The second one is, if you sell Golden Delicious and apples, of course there's an overlap. And the second requirement is our structures and our elements should be not mutually overlapping. They should be mutually exclusive. And the third one, of course, if you sell a box here, a tray of pears, it should be exhaustive. It should be full. The same thing as if we sell fruit, like here, it should be exhaustive. It's not only apples and pears. It should be more than that to be exhaustive and to call it fruit. So we have three issues here in a well-designed structure. It has to be uniform, mutually exclusive, and exhaustive. And so here I would like to give you a little example and explain it with a typical dashboard. Here we go. Well, just a typical sales performance dashboard. Okay, perfect. Top 4 markets, top 4 products, top 4 sales channels. This is not overlapping. It is uniform. It is okay. But look what happens up here. This is a little angel here, but this has a daemon up here. It's country, it's sales analysis, and it's by salesperson. And this is not uniform on this level, and this should be changed. We come back to this one example later. Okay, has a little daemon up here. So then we touched briefly, the two aspects of conceptual rules, say and structure, but this is not the main focus of this presentation. This presentation wants to focus on the perceptual, on the visual rules, and we start with the first one, that is express. We express it, what we have to say in the proper way, and I would like to start with a example that's from PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is the annual report, global annual report of this organization, and here you see the development of the service line mix over the years, and you see the development. It is quite surprising that they present this going down quite significantly, but when you look at this chart for some time, then you see, well, it's going backward, which is not the typical way of doing charts. So we learn that charts, column charts representing time, should always go from left to right. And another example, just to show an example, is looking at these, you call spark lines. They're very popular now, the spark lines. People are promoting these spark lines, and the question is, are they the proper way of presenting trends, these spark lines? Because that's what people tell us. You use those spark lines and then you see the trend. But look into these examples. Do they really show the trend? I'll just give you one example. That look at this one line here. You see the product 9, you see the development, and now the question I would like to ask you, can these spark lines really show trends? Is it possible? I will send you a little pulse check, and I ask you, what do you think? Can they really show trends or cannot? And please click on this pulse check and tell me what do you think. Can these spark lines clearly show trends? Please click. And I see the values coming. Well, it's 33 so far think they cannot, but 12 so far think they can. I wait another 5 seconds. Now the feedback of 80%. So, the majority, that's quite surprising. The majority thinks they cannot show trends, but 18 people, they think they can show trends. So I would like to convince these 18 that they cannot show trends. I hope I can convince you. Okay, let's see what happens. If I look at the data and produce, this is using Microsoft Excel, these spark lines, and I look at the first product A, you see this is the average of A, and you see a little variance, significant variance of A, and you see product line B, and the average of B, and the same significant variance. Okay. But now looking at the data down here, it's the original Excel table, and you see the variance compared to average of A is 1%. Okay, 1%. And if you look at the variance of B compared to average is 63%. And this is a significant, important variance, but the one of A is almost nothing. And so if instead you would use, I think this is not a correct way of showing the different trends. If you would look at, let's say, the old-fashioned spaghetti charts, and we look at this on the same area, with the same space, with the same area, and it goes from 0 to 10, then we see that A is developing with -1%, and B is really way down, showing -63%. So we feel that we have to be very careful with showing these spark lines and using them properly, and this is not done properly here. So we think this is not correct, and this is correct. May I ask you briefly again, do you still think that spark lines are a good way of presenting trends and comparing trends? Please give your brief. Oh, there's still one left who thinks spark lines can be used, but only one. Okay, one of you thinks we can use. It's two. Okay, it's two. We think okay, but the majority, 95%, think it's not the proper way. It must be done differently. Okay, thanks a lot. Now, this was Express. It's one of the 4 parts of perceptual rules. We have to use the perfect and the correct way. I mean, that means time going from left to right. That means we have structure going down. We do not use pie charts if possible. It's one of the worst things we can do, pie charts or ring charts, because they have only one dimension and cannot really give quite interesting answers to complex questions. But then we take the second one. This is simplify. I think I mentioned at the beginning, we simplify things, as Edward Tufte suggested many years ago, and let me go into simplify. When you look at these typical examples, this is, well, not really simplified. It is rather colorful and is rather fancy, but is not really helping to understand and to give us the big picture. And so I would like to take just one example. It's one example, and to explain the 52 steps of simplifying a complex and almost useless chart like this one here. First time, take away the background, the colored background, take away these frames, take away the yellow background, take away the logo. I mean, there's no need for logos on every page, because people, they know where they're employed. It's not necessary to have this on the reporting pages. And take the 3D away, take the lines away. Again, 3D is misleading here, this pseudo 3D. Not using bold letters if possible. We use bold for highlighting, use regular fonts, take away these unnecessary information like graphical display or table or chart, and take away these words like development or structure or presentation, table, chart. We can take this away. Instead, we're using a consistent title concept. I mentioned this in the beginning. With a clear title concept means net sales, €1 million, 2012 to 2015. The 2 dots are presenting or representing from 2. If there would be a minus, then it would be the difference. But here it's a from 2 dots. Okay. Take away, the legends. We don't need this. Take away the net sales because it's redundant. If it's 4 times division food, we take it away and put it in the title, because this is a title information, the division food. Redundant information goes 1 step up. And take this away, take this away. We don't need these y-axis. It's much better to label the columns instead. Okay, we're getting there. Take 1 decimal away, take the frames away, and of course, that's a very important issue. Do not misuse colors for unnecessary visualization. That's a very important thing. We think we have unlimited number of colors, and so we use them only for very limited distinct purposes, like red for negative variances, not for negative numbers, for negative variances, and green for positive variances, for instance. Okay, so it's all gray before highlighting. Then we might have a notation for actual and plan, and this concept we come back. So explain the use of the axis for meaning. We take even one digit away. And now it's a simplified little chart, and we can understand it. It's clear. We can use it and condense it because there's room for more. And compared to this one, and I hope you agree that simplifying things make it easier to understand. So this was just one small example for simplification. But once we have simplified things, then we can go into, and Express we did this already, then we can go into the condense phase, because once we simplify it, we have room for more. That means we condense the information, we put more information in there. So like using this one here, a typical waterfall chart. As I mentioned before, this is not the proper way of doing it, because it is a structure waterfall showing the influences on the axis. So it has to be turned around by 90 degrees, showing the structure. And again, now simplifying and condensing. I will show you a little story of what we can do to present this data. Title first, then we have the sales revenue, adding up the different sales sources, minus cost, minus expenses, gives us the operating result. And this leads to a result before tax of 409 million and a group result of 188 million. It's all gray because it is previous year. Previous year is lighter than actual, because actual year is 2015. We have more sales, but we also have more costs. I mean, the costs, the operating expenses are much higher. You see it's 565 compared to 752. But the sales are higher, costs are higher, so in the group result is a little bit better, a little bit higher. So then the question is, can we compare the two easily? We call this delta previous year. The positive values are going to the right-hand side, the negative to the left-hand side, but we have green and red ones, because, I mean, some of them are good, the variances, they are green, and some of them are red, negative. At the end, we have a positive, better group result of 91 million. This is the typical way of presenting absolute variances. If you look at the percentage variances are little needles, always needles. The black head of the needle representing that is actual. The gray axis is representing it is compared to previous year. If it would be compared to budget or plan, it would be a different type of axis. So then we see the development, not the development, the structure of the variances, percentage variances. And of course, you might have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000% variance, because the basic values are so small, like the 6 here and the fourth bar from the top, only 6 million other revenue. Of course, then you have let's say a 1,000% variance. But we could either scale it properly, but in percentage variances, sometimes it's necessary to keep it this way. Then, of course, we have our message in the presentation. The message gives us leading to a higher group result of plus 91. It has to be highlighted. The major values in the message have to be highlighted. You see the blue ellipses here. Then we might have additional information. The information is structured, starting always with a let's say, the important key words like purchases 2015 or other operating expenses, explaining it. They are numbered and they are linked to the content, which is not so easy to make it, to do it automatically, of course, but it's a very important and very necessary thing to explain complex issues, let's say via PowerPoint or another presentation slide. And this is, of course, possible to use a waterfall here too, because then you easily see the sum of operating expenses, 187. You could do it this way, or you could do it this way, but in total, I think this slide or this typical PowerPoint presentation fulfills the requirements for Condense. It is Condense, and it shows quite a lot of information, and you might take 10 minutes or 15 minutes to discuss this. And what you see here is of lower, has not so much information on this page, and it's, I think, more difficult to understand than the one we had before. I hope I can convince you. We have clients, customers, users of our concept. They used to have 60, 70, 80 slides in a presentation, and now they have 6 or 7 for 1 hour or 1 hour and 30 minutes, which is possible because it's condensed. So this is, the question: which tools are we using to produce this kind of charts? I mean, the typical Excel chart cannot do this, and many BI tools cannot yet do this. But there is one in the SAP environment called Graphomate Charts, which can deliver this 100%, what you have seen before. You see the example for Design Studio, for Analysis for Office, and Lumira. And tools like this, we think, will be the future, because it's not enough to have a nice concept and top management supporting the concept. It needs, of course, tools to support these concepts. And this is one, just to give you an idea, in the SAP environment. It's one of the first ones of these tools which have been certified by us. We certify. We cannot certify the product by itself. We can certify whether this product is able to produce this kind of charts and tables. That's all. We cannot really certify the product as in a total, but only the capability of this product. Okay? So this was Condense, and the last one of the perceptual rules, which is quite clear and evident, and everybody knows we have to scale properly, but scaling is probably the most important and the most difficult thing in the whole BI environment, to have a consistent scaling. Like, my background is mechanical engineering. It's clear you have on every drawing you have a scale, 1 to 10 or 1 to 1, and every architect, everyone is using a proper scale in what they are doing, but we are not used to this, and I expect that in every report, in every book, it says, 100 people is equivalent to 1 inch or 2 centimeters, or 1 billion is equivalent to 1 inch or 2 or 3 centimeters, whatever. And the problem I would like to explain using this little example from an Austrian daily newspaper, Der Standard. They had a big, some years ago, ad showing the development of their decision makers, and the users being decision makers, and you see that the percentages below, and if we now think that the height of the chair is equivalent to the numbers, then is the question, is this done properly, is it correctly? Because 17.9% would be this first chair, and this would be 18.8%, and this would be 19.5%, and this would be correctly designed, because this is the data being presented correctly. What they did here is showing a picture of a complete different content. It's not representing the data correctly. And I would like to come back to a situation of an annual report. And the first one, maybe worldwide, who accepted this and transferred this in their annual report was the Swiss Post. When you open it on the first page, it's worth looking at this. It says, all charts are shown to scale to present a true and fair view. 20 millimeter is equivalent to 1 billion francs, and they have 9 billion in sales, or they had in those this year. And so this is 18 centimeters bars. And when you look at an example, you can see that this is just showing the 1 billion, 2 billion, and look at one example, and this will fit exactly. So the 911 million in operating profit is scaled properly to this. And this is not typical in very many annual reports. Every single chart has a different scale. It is not possible to compare this. It's absolutely useless to present charts with different scales, looking the same but having different scales. And coming back to this one example of a typical BI application we had before, we talked about the wrong structure on top, but looking at the bottom, you see we have three similar-looking charts with completely different scales and very strange, let's say, y-axis labelings when you look at this. So what we do is we take this away, because it's always a way of lying and betraying. If you are labeling this axis and you say, well, I'm honest, I tell you that I'm lying, but if you do it in the perfect way, we take this away and have a title, net revenue in billion euros, then you see the proper comparison. You can compare the values in the different channels and markets and products, but going back, you show a completely different picture. There's only one way of doing it perfectly, is using the same scale, not only within this one dashboard, but using it all over the whole place. And it's very difficult because we have varying numbers, and it's not easy. Of course, it's not. Of course, we have to turn it around. We have learned this. It's not a time development here. It's structures have turned by 90 degrees. Okay, this was what I wanted to tell you about the visual, the perception, and the perception world: condense, check, express, simplify. And now the last one, and this is new, because this is really our focus in the last 2 or 3 years, is semantic rules. Semantic means the meaning, and we call it Unify. Not Unify in the sense of corporate design, making everything looking yellow or blue or red. I mean, corporate design is doing the opposite. We talk about Unify, meaning things which look the same should be the same, and if they are not the same, they should not look the same. So I show you some examples from, let's say, other areas, like look at, well, this is a traffic sign, and we have a notation standard worldwide. I just show you this one. This is, I think it is Saudi Arabia, and it is almost the same. I'm living in Switzerland, and this is almost the same as we have in Switzerland. And here in Germany, it's almost the same. Of course, some of them are a little bit different, but everyone can understand them. It's very practical, using the same standard for road signs. And looking at these flags, I mean, hundreds of years, 200, 300 years, they invented these flags to communicate between ships. And this is a worldwide standard for hundreds of years. Looking at this capacitor in an electric circuit, and the electric circuit looks the same in China and California and in Finland. They're using the same symbols, and if you look at a electric circuit diagram, or that's just an example, for the technical engineers and for the electric engineers, it's easy to understand. And the same with music. I mean, if you look at this 8th note, and it's very practical that Mr. Mozart, Beethoven, and Tchaikovsky are using the same music symbols, the same sheet music, but they have done this the musicians invented this 400, 500 years ago, and using a consistent system. It's very practical. If you're a piano player, you can play this. And so this is what I want to get at. We need something similar in our business, in our, let's say, communication of business data. That means, just a little example, previous year is gray, and actual is, let's say, black, and outline is just an example, is plan or budget, and forecast is hatched, for instance. And months look different to years, and quarters look different to days, because we have a concept. And let me show what we have today. We have weekly sales in one dashboard, and we have blocked invoices in different colors, and we have this, and we have this, and we have this, with all kinds of different visuals. And even the worst things are, those speedometers, they really don't help at all for business data. This is what we have today, and I think we have to improve this. We really have to unify this in the sense of semantic rules. And I cannot go into this in all details, but I'd like to give you a little example. This is one of our templates which have to be fulfilled by the people applying for a certificate. This is, well, you might remember a percentage variance showing actual data in percent of something. If it would be sales, the green means we have a positive variance in the first years and negative variances in percent here, and so we make it not as big as possible, but we make it as small as possible. So again, here at the end we have, let's say this is plan compared to average. So we make it as small as possible. This is Cologne. It's a clear title. We have 25 locations in Central Europe, and so we see here the first 12, 3 by 4, 12 locations. We compare net profit to the average of our 25 locations in Central Europe. Okay, there's Berlin, and because Berlin has a much bigger variance than the others, it needs more space, and I would love to see that the tools today would be able to adapt the size of the tiles to whatever we need. So if Berlin would even double the variance, of course it needs the whole height of this chart, and the rest is 12 more small locations. So if this rest adding up to 25 locations, and this is the average of our 20 locations, because the absolute value, of course, is a column chart like here, and the percentage variance is a needle. Of course, there is a message, if possible, and it explains details or highlightings of this chart. So, and this would be this is the absolute variance. This is the absolute variance showing columns of the same width as the basic values compared to the percentage values as you've seen before. Just to give you a little idea what we think is a standard concept of realization. Let me go into, let's say, one or two more examples. This is a typical stacked column chart, which is a part of our certification process. There are 13 charts. The people applying for the software, applying for the certification should be able to fulfill. It's not that easy, especially the highlightings must be done, and the text information included is not that easy. And this is another example of a bar chart, stacked bar chart, explaining the net sales in different countries. Or here let's say a last one in this series showing a bar charts actual compared to budget or compared to plan and sorted by absolute delta plan, going from plus 34 down to minus 97 in Virginia. And on the right hand side again you see the needles presenting the percentage variance. Okay, this is, just a brief overview for the seven rule sets we have, and to wrap it up and to summarize, I'd like to give you an overview of the top 10. Top 10 means we have top 10 rules, and I would love and wish I could convince you that we need these rules. And the first one is, if we give a presentation, we need a message. The message is written on top or below, whatever you wish, but there's a message. Otherwise, we call it the statistics. The next one is we have a title concept. Of course, we have titles, but we need a concept. That means the same font, the same position, the same sequence of 3 or 4 rows as shown here. The third one is we differentiate between time and structure. I think it's very important. So a horizontal waterfall or horizontal line chart or bar chart, a horizontal column chart would give us a time development, and the structure is done vertically. We talked about this last S in success structure. The McKinsey people call it MISI, mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. We have a list of countries with no overlap and so forth. This is structure. Number 5, we have a chart concept. We need a chart concept We do not need pie charts and ring charts and funnel charts and radar charts. In most cases, they're not necessary. But we have a clear concept for lines and columns and bars and what you see here, and areas maybe. What you see here, the chart concept. A limited number. I think it's enough to have, let's see, 6, 7, 8 different chart types. Then the labeling is always integrated. We never use external labels. It's always Germany, Austria is here, is linked and directly connected to the columns here. It does not say Germany is red and Austria is blue. This makes the whole thing very colorful. We don't do this. We use the colors elsewise. Okay, number 7 is scenarios. I think there are some 100 companies over here, not internationally yet, but over here, let's say between the Netherlands and Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Denmark, using this quite intensely. There are large organizations with thousands of people who use this concept, forecast, hatched, actual, dark, previous year light, and so forth. That's only one of the dimensions, but it's an important dimension because every business reporting system has the scenario dimension. Number 8, the variance concept. I can suggest you follow this idea. We have absolute variances. Here, the black and the previous year below, and on top it's black compared to plan, not using the outline as a column, which would be possible, but using a little triangle instead. It depends. I'm not saying you have to use a outline bar or column. The outline by itself means plan, and black by itself means actual, and hatched by itself means forecast. And then the same thing with the percentage values. So then there is scaling. We talked about this. Scaling is probably the most difficult, the most important thing for visualizing things. I mean, looking at one chart is nice, but if you have a sequence of charts, to scale them the same way is rather difficult and complicated. And this last one is, of the top 10, is highlighting. If we have a message, we have to highlight it, either a trend arrow or a difference marker, or using maybe some background coloring to highlight. We have only 3 or 4 different types of highlighting. Okay, this is giving you the overview. I'd like to now say where you can find more information. We have a website. The IBCS Association has this website. You will find all the details. It's not easy to read. I tell you, it's maybe 100 or 120 pages. It's not easy. It's not easy to read. If you are interested, you see the website up here. It's well. I show you the link if you want to jump into there. You see the link. It's download like a little PDF document, the standards. Or there is which is a very good start to begin with, a notation manual, which we created to start either PDF or PowerPoint. You can download. And now I have 3 seconds more than 45 minutes. It's 45:06 on my clock, and I hope we could give you a little overview of what we're doing and wish you much success with the success rules of IBCS. Okay, now you take over, David, and if there's any question, you might collect them and give them over to me.
Okay, there's a couple of questions here that I've got. In the meantime, I would like to ask any of the listeners or viewers if they have any burning questions. This is the time to post them. I have the first couple of questions here. What is the process by which IBCS standards are developed?
How it developed, or I didn't get your question. Sorry.
The question is how do they develop, or how were they developed?
That's a long story. Well, to make it short, I finished my degree, my doctorate degree in engineering. I went to McKinsey and went from engineering to business before becoming professor in controlling and finance. And so I thought, why don't the business, this was 35 years ago, and I thought, why don't these business guys have a concept for visualization? They don't have it. They don't have it. This was many, many years ago. And then I was running a software company. I sold the software company 15 years ago. And then I thought, well, let's start discussing this with people. And people like Jürgen Feist sitting next to me and others, we discussed it for 10, 12, 15 years. And then the problem was it was called the Hichert concept, which is not very helpful because it was personalized to my name. And so 3 years ago we thought it's good to give it away to a open source, let's say, Creative Commons community. It should be there for everyone. And so now I take my own name away. That's my goal. I take my one, and we call it now IBCS, and everyone can contribute. You can contribute, and we have a yearly update. The last one was in Amsterdam last June. This was version number 0.1. We have another one at Coca-Cola in Istanbul in June next year. We have the version maybe 1.5 or I don't know yet. So what this is a question depending on what the interests are. There are many ideas of improving these standards, but we want to have a year-by-year update and not doing this continuously. That's the situation. It's a rather private. It started very privately in my personal interest, and suddenly there are some 100. I think we have had, Jürgen and myself, we had 5,000 or 6,000 participants in our one-day seminar so far. So there's a big movement over here in the Central Europe, and we have now had there was a presentation in Las Vegas last year. There was one of our certified consultants was at McKinsey in New York last week giving a presentation for more than 100 people there, and so there's quite something going on. And our idea is to really make it public, to make it open for everyone. It should not be our story. It should be, all of us. This is the idea. Like music. I mean, Beethoven used the same music as Tchaikovsky. Huh? That's the same thing. And over here, I think we are from, let's say, SAP internally using it, up to Philips, up to Coca-Cola, up in Turkey, and up to large chemical and pharmaceutical companies. There's a lot going on here. Okay, this is it. I mean, there's no. This came by a chance. It was not planned at all. No. Okay. Any more questions?
Yes. There's another question. These IBCS chart standards, they're quite popular in Northern Europe. And they've actually, in the last couple of years, they've become extremely popular. Are they gaining traction in other regions of the world, or is this still a regional thing?
Well, but we started, let's say, 6 months ago to go outside of the German-speaking countries. So that's Austria, Switzerland, Germany started. Mm-hmm. And now I just come back. I was in Detroit, had a seminar in Detroit, and it was quite successful. And there was one in Washington, D.C., a couple of weeks ago, and because the company of Hichert and Feist, you see it, Hichert and Feist is our company, has 2 people, that's Jürgen and myself, and so we rely on people from SAP and from other software companies and big consulting organizations and our 100 certified consultants. They're not working for us, but they have a certification and they do the projects all over the place. And so that's our idea, not doing it ourselves, but training people. Our business model is training and certification. We do not do any consulting anymore. And there's something going on. I think it will take maybe some more years to get it spread all in the world. But the interesting thing is there's almost no alternative at the moment. The problem is many people even don't accept the idea of standardization. They feel, because I am bank number A, I am blue, and here is bank number B, and I am yellow. And it needs some time to convince people that standards are helpful for everyone. I think it takes some time. And once we have the chance to get to the C-level people, after 15, 20, 35 minutes, I mean, people accept the idea. But people 1, 2, 3 steps below, they feel that their top management should not get the standard information because, they understand it. It's very easy to understand if things are standardized. Okay.
Okay, this actually segues into the next question, which I think you've already at least partially answered, which was, how do we see the relationship between standards and innovation? Aren't they opposites?
Well, I mean, ask Mr. Tchaikovsky if it was necessary to invent a new language for his music. I mean, he was using the same stuff as Mozart. Ask, people. I think standardization must be, of course, improved and changed and make better. But I mean, what else do you need if you know how sales and profit and months and quarters and years and let's say different scenarios in different countries look like? Well, we can go into other areas, like now we have people from logistics and from human resources. They might need different, let's say, dimensions and different types of measures, ratios, but not every ratio has to have a different notation. I think it is enough if we are able to say, well, this is actual, and this is plan, and this is years, and this is quarters. And maybe in 10 years we have something that is, how does, let's say, sales per capita look like, or profit on sales look like? At the moment, we don't have this. We limit the standards to the top 10, as you have seen before. I mean, to make it simple in the beginning. You see the first movements in music 560, 580 years ago, they started with very simple notation, very simple. But now look what happens. I mean, it's getting complex if you look what musicians do. And what people do, doing designs of, let's say, chips and electric circuits, and if you have a gearbox design or see what an architect is doing, it's rather complex stuff. And we're using pie charts. I mean, that's way below the level of any engineer. Pie charts, I mean, forget it. I mean, that's a very one-dimensional, simple thing. If I tell you we have 22% of women employed, I mean, I don't need a pie chart for this. This is the problem we have today. Pie charts are the wrong direction. Okay, another question, please, if there's any.
Yeah, there are other questions. One is, did IBCS already develop a first visualization semantics code or something similar?
For what?
For what? It sounds as if the question was probably related to really similar to what you just said with music, which is a semantics code for defining it. I guess we'll skip it because the question's not clear.
Maybe I'll give you just an answer. I mean, semantics means, this is what you see here, is one important part of what we call semantics. If you see something that is hashed, let's say a needle, a head of a needle, or let's say a bar, a column, anything that is hashed, it means I am forecast. If you see something that is outlined in a table, in a chart, in even a text could be outlined, then it is plain. That's it. And if you think, and you need maybe two different types of plan, I would not suggest to use different outlines. I would not do this. I would not use two different types of previous year, light gray for pre-previous year and dark gray. I would not do this, but people do. I mean, they develop their own concepts and go on and using different new dimensions. But this is a typical example of our semantic level. Semantic layer, the U of success, the Unify part. I don't know if I answered this correctly, but that's what I mean. I mean, of course, you have limited resources. You have colors, you have, let's say, fills, you have different shapes and so forth. It's difficult to have, let's say, 10 or 20 different dimensions. We have to concentrate on the important ones. And one of the important ones is scenarios, because everyone has planned and budget. Okay. Good. Okay, and there's one last question I have here in the queue, and that is, any plan to get it recognized by a global body like ISO? We have made all kinds of. That's a very, very good question. Very interesting one. We have talked to people from FINMA, which is the Swiss organization. We have talked to all kinds of international organizations, from integrated reporting to CFA organizations. But I think it will take time to convince them. Of course, we try to. That's of course, but it will take some time. Let's see. We've talked to at least 3-4 of the international organizations. Jürgen, my partner, has done it, and there's a publication being prepared. Jürgen, what this publication? You said this is from was war das, was du jetzt meinte, IMA. That's for IMA. Then was one of the certified partners was in Las Vegas last week and talking to the people. I forgot the abbreviation. One of the large accounting, professional accounting. What was it called? That's AFP. Okay, I didn't know them. AFP, and we try, of course, to convince them, because if we are able to do this, but for us at the moment it is perfect that we have convinced SAP. They're not using this internally only in Waldorf and the different locations. It's their quarterly reports, monthly reports internally, but also the products will go this way. And this is what we think is the best solution. We need the tools. It's not enough to have a nice concept, and not enough to convince the CEO. We need tools for this, and if SAP and of course others, Excel of course is very important here, can solve this, well, fine. Any more? That's it?
I think we've answered the questions, which is actually perfect.
We have 2 more minutes. We have 2 more minutes. It says here 58:08. Okay, well, David, thanks for introducing and making the summary, and I hope I could convince some of you, the participants. We have a lot of people here from all kinds of companies, and I hope we could. And we will, I think, David, send them not only some links, but also some kind of handout which you can use, a PDF, I think, we've sent to you. So people are interested to know more, they can go to our websites or to download the PDF. So now we're over. 10 seconds to go. That's it. Have a nice day, David.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And there'll be a replay, a URL going out to everyone within 24 hours with a replay.
Okay, great. Have a nice day.